It's a pleasure to be here, and especially folks who are working with or considering ClickFox, because I've really found it to be a tremendous tool for rethinking the whole next direction of personalization at scale, which is really, in the end, what a lot of this is about. So first, from a strategic perspective, right up front, you guys are already doing this. It's all about thinking about journeys. And in many cases, it's about bringing a new lens into the overall planning process of your institution to think about journeys in the first place. Now, one of the concepts that we use, this isn't rocket science, but it is a nice, simple way to start getting people's brains around a journey concept, is to use some kind of icon like this. This is what we use for a customer decision journey flow. We have found a framework like this forcefully put in front of product managers on a laminated card saying, how are you thinking through this journey in your launch plans for new products, in new enhancements, in your campaigns? How are you working through all the different steps in that journey? Is this the only journey? Is it only about purchase? Are there deeper journeys within experience that need to be blown out? But very deliberately thinking through, what are all the steps in the journey? How are you going to fund them? How are they going to operate? What information needs to be moved? And forcing that discussion does not usually happen. And so coming in orthogonally with data on journeys makes it hard to move things because people's mindset isn't planning and budgeting and aligned against managing journeys. So it's important to start getting the thought involved right at the start and getting people thinking about how do they want to shape these journeys for advantage. Then, in terms of the next step, is to go a bit deeper and actually say, which journeys matter to which segments, in which step of the journey, where really is the places we need to focus. So this is an example of a discount clothing retailer who has about 10 different customer segments. So when you start laying that out into a heat map, you can start to see across the different stages, in this case of the customer decision journey, where are the hot spots? And in this case, they had 7 different hot spots that from a planning process perspective were the journey priorities. And then everything starts moving against those. Budgets start moving, planning starts moving, data that you're tracking. So what do you want to track in terms of the underlying ClickFox system? Who are we really trying to track, and understanding where do we want to move them? If you haven't thought through the strategy up front, it's hard to know where even to focus. You focus in the aggregate, but you don't necessarily focus on the strategic things you're trying to do to explicitly move the needle. And when you do that, you're really changing overall the way people are thinking about marketing and about customer management. Instead of a lot of traditional one-off push programs, we're talking about journeys that are ongoing, constant management of different customer segments that are always on, always reacting to what people are doing. It's not going to be mass, it's going to be way more personalized, it's going to cut across all channels, not just what marketing tends to mostly look at, which are paid channels. And from an ongoing perspective, you're constantly, from an agile perspective, going to be creating new offers, testing them out, measuring them, optimizing them. This is all going to be constant trial and error that's going to be cycling very quickly. So it's a different kind of operation from a workflow perspective in order to start attacking these kinds of journeys. And as you move into that, you're going to be needing some kind of war room. So from the bank's perspective, going after these kinds of journeys, like I said before, wasn't an issue of saying a journey is something that comes together when lots of people across the bank put a little time in and meet every 2 weeks to have an update on the progress that they've made. That's not going to work. And if you think about, from a ClickFox perspective, you get data coming out of any of the analyses you have, you want to be able to constantly jump on that, make the fixes, or at least try to make the fixes, see what happened, look at the results. That's the beauty of that kind of platform, but it's not going to happen if you don't have execution teams that are working together cross-functionally to attack these things in rapid cycles. And then you're getting constant feedback on what's actually going on. Now, ClickFox is one tool that can give you feedback on what's going on. You don't want to spend time putting together reports. You want to immediately see what's working, what's not working, what are the exceptions, and be able to have immediate visual tools that tell you, how things are going in the market very rapidly so you can start taking action and tuning those tools to support the war room so that they're getting immediate feedback on what to do. And then they're having an endless punch list of things that they're trying. Some of this is spat out of tools like ClickFox that can give you this. Some of it is just ideas of things to test that have nothing to do with ClickFox per se, but are more marketing ideas that are an endless punch list. And these war rooms should be constantly doing it. Now, certainly, one of the data engines you're going to want is something that shows journey analytics, and this is a ClickFox output here, and I think you guys have seen probably plenty of those. But you're going to want to have these kinds of engines that are constantly telling you what's going on and what's not, and using that to drive where you're going. And sometimes it tells you very counterintuitive learnings. So this is an interesting example from a bank, how the normal tools of attribution and kind of the traditional marketing data tools didn't really tell them what was going on in terms of what it took to actually get people to open a checking account. So the traditional way that, let me just show both of these. The traditional thing that most banks thought would be the way to get people to sign up for a checking account is to get them very rapidly from an ad right into the application. So always you want to eliminate steps and get somebody right into the application. And 70% of the people who they would touch would go straight into the application, no product page visit. But when you looked in total on who opened a checking account online or offline, and this is only data you can really get from ClickFox, only 13% of them did. 30% took the intermediate step of visiting a product page, actually learning about the product, feeling comfortable about the product. And 33% of those actually opened an account, online or offline. So journey data, if that's really feeding the engine in the war room, can start illuminating some very counterintuitive and different ways of looking at things. Well, more and more companies are structurally doing that and actually creating more formal operating models around journeys with Scrum teams. So right now I'm working with one major global bank as well as a telecom company, both of whom have essentially organized a big chunk of their activity around journey managers. And they act as though they're a product manager in a way, because they're responsible for the profitability of that journey. So an example of a journey would be what we just saw on the small business. So all the way from awareness to activation for small business. That would be an end-to-end journey. And they're responsible for the profitability of that journey, the improvement of that journey over time, constantly pushing that journey forward. Underneath that are Scrum teams who are focused on getting different elements of it. Some may be about enablement, bringing certain capabilities to bear. The others may be about actually running the journey and actually doing the execution and driving the programs. And then underneath those, you've got design, development, analytics, operations, marketing, and possibly others. At the top, you've got a journey strategist who's using tools like ClickFox to understand across all the different segments and across the journeys, what's that heat map? Where should we focus? Where should we not? Where should we be spinning out new journeys to actually formally manage? And how are we doing in terms of our improvements in those journeys?